Hello, hello, and welcome to Inner Work for Greater Good. My name is Emily Eldridge, as always, here to help guide you through inner work that can accelerate your power to change the world. And if you haven't seen any of my previous episodes, please watch the previous ones. It really lays out the whole Change Light system, which is what I created, which is really an emotional education system that simplifies a lot of what's going on inside. And plus, if you're in our community, changelight.world, you can actually learn the techniques that I created, that I teach. My signature technique is the drawing out process. And that's where you can learn how to draw out not just your inner struggles, but also your inner strength so that you can feel more whole, clear, and at peace to truly live your truth and make whatever difference you are called to make. So I'm so happy to have you here. Today, we're going to, as always, I've thought about what do I want to talk about this week? And usually it's something that's kind of been crystallized for me, this week, or been an issue that I've run into. Oh, by the way, I do have a bit different background, as you can see if you know my shows. I'm actually at my parents' house in Vermont right now. So yes, that's the bed I'm sleeping on. But in any case, welcome. So there's something that's actually, I should say, been really sort of reinforced, like brought to my attention the past few months. And it's just been an interesting kind of realization for me personally. And that has to do with inner blocks. And the thing is, when it comes to inner blocks, we all feel blocked in different ways, right? And in different areas of our lives. Sometimes we feel blocked in our relationships. Sometimes we feel blocked in our businesses. Sometimes we feel blocked just getting out of bed. There are all kinds of inner blocks that we experience. And I know for myself that whenever an inner block comes up, after being pretty frustrated with the fact that I'm feeling blocked, I often will dive in and go, okay, what's going on with me? Why am I feeling blocked? Where is this coming from? What's underneath the surface? Because for me personally, when I'm feeling blocked, you know how some people will say things like, well, you just got to push through the fear, or you just got to push through the resistance, or what have you. That does not work for me, period. Like, it just does not. And not only that, I find that there are several reactions I have when I try to push through. One is that if I try to push through those blocks, personally, I am more likely to have a meltdown a lot faster. It's like something can just feel so overwhelming, and I just have a meltdown at some point. It also results for me in I get tired more easily because I'm having to go against whatever internally feels like it's getting in the way or trying to stop me from doing whatever it is I feel I need to do. But also, I don't show up as well. And my work that I put through is not as good quality, I've found, because I'm struggling to create it as opposed to it flowing effortlessly and naturally from me. So for me, I just found that when it comes to blocks, that I'm always very acutely aware when I'm feeling blocked. And then I work really, really hard to process the blocks and, so that I can move forward with greater ease. And sometimes when it comes to those inner blocks, sometimes it can just be a matter of, time. You just got to kind of wait through it. Sometimes it can be hormonal. Right, ladies? Sometimes, depending on our cycles or what have you, like, we can just go through periods where we feel blocked and then all of a sudden we're fine. And it can just be something chemical that's a cyclical, there's a pattern to it. I personally haven't really tracked that for myself, but it's something I think I need to start doing, especially as I'm, getting older and my body is changing, and hormonally everything's, things are changing. But my point of today's episode is to discuss, like, basically, as the title says, emotional block or intuitive block. And here's why. Because it's been so interesting. So I've shared in previous episodes how I've been going through big changes with my work and my business end of things, because, like, I've hired people, and now I'm not just a solopreneur, and I've, bringing people on to play different roles. And so through this process, I've also been learning a lot more about myself. One of the things they say about entrepreneurialism is that it is like the best, like, personal development thing you could possibly do, because it's not just about, building the business. It's also really about having to work with oneself and discover attributes that one has, or, maybe triggers that we have, and really work through those. So that's obviously my approach to it, to a lot of what I do, and in whether in business or in life. And so all these blocks have come up over the past few months. Now, I tend to approach blocks as I assume that it's fear. I assume that it's fear that's acting up inside of me. And so I kind of want to go in there and I want to heal the fear and I want to process it in acknowledgement, draw it out, do whatever I've got to do to heal those parts inside of me that are, maybe rearing their ugly heads, or that are, the little kids inside that are like, no, we're too scared. And so I realize one of my blind spots that I've had is I've tended to approach those blocks as automatically like there's some kind of fear that I need to process. Now, mind you, that's actually coming after many years before that of thinking that every time I was blocked, it was some kind of universe thing and message and saying, no, you're just not supposed to be doing this. And so I've actually been on the other end of it where I assumed it was more of like intuitive or a message or something, something the universe was saying no. So I realized recently that actually I've gone to the other end where I just assume it's a fear that I need to heal and I need to process, that it's not some, universe sort of telling me to stop. It's more emotional. But there have been a number of situations and events that have happened that have finally made me realize that I've been a little too extreme on the other end now of assuming that it's emotional, purely emotional, that I just need to process through it and I need to, break through the fears and then move forward. And one of them, I'll just give you a few quick stories. So one of the stories, and see if this applies to you. See if, as always, as I'm sharing these thoughts and ideas and stories and experiences, see if you resonate with any of this. See if you are noticing that you're blocked in certain ways of certain areas of your life or situations, and just consider, what they could possibly be about as I share my stories. So there's this one. So it first sort of came up in a really big way. In a number of months ago, I hired a woman to be my sort of like operations person. And she came in and, learned about the business and then had all these like great ideas and said, okay, this is the approach that I think we should take, and laid it all out, kind of as a consultant, if you will, and just said, here's, or business coach, here's what I think you should do. Okay. So I saw that and I immediately felt this and in my mind, I thought, well, God, what's wrong with me? Like I've been saying, I want to hit these things. I want to, get this stuff done. So why am I feeling blocked like this? So I tackled it, as I referred to earlier, from like an emotional place where maybe I'm just overwhelmed and I'm nervous. And so I go inside the blocks and I process them and I draw what I could. And I'd sort of, figure out what was going on with me so that I could then, okay, let's take action on these ideas. And it just didn't work. I still kept feeling blocked and this heaviness or this sort of like, no. And I'd be like, okay, I just need to keep clearing. And it kept going and kept going for months for actually a couple of months. And I would explain to her, like, I know I need to move forward on these things, but I just can't seem to move forward on them. And so I went to a place of what's wrong with me? Why, what are the fears that I have? Maybe I'm really afraid of success. Maybe I'm really afraid of putting myself out there, all these kinds of, standard fears and maybe some subconscious fears. And I did access and discover some things inside me that did need to be moved, but the blocks were still there. And so long story shorter, finally what happened a few weeks, I then brought another gal because we were going to, she's going to be she's my sort of impact arm, strategy and partnerships. And so anyway, brought her on and we were having a meeting. I don't want to get into all the nitty gritty details, but my point is that I left that meeting feeling really upset. And it wasn't because of anything either lady said or did. They're both wonderful ladies. But I felt really upset. And it's like this afterwards, I was talking to my husband about it and saying like, I was just angry. I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do this. And I just had this sudden something inside me just said, no, you already know what to do, Emily. And that's not the right approach. And this is the right approach. And so it came up like this volcanic truth, really, this volcanic knowing. And what I realized is that there was nothing wrong with me or nor sort of blocks I needed to release in order to take action on that plan. It was more that the plan, as perfectly sound plan as it was, that that my operations gal had sort of laid out, that it just wasn't the right approach. It just was not me. It wasn't how I wanted to go about it. It wasn't, I'm sure it would work beautifully for other people, but it wasn't me. And it wasn't really trying to have impact in the ways that I wanted to have impact. It wasn't really, receiving income the ways I wanted to receive income. Again, nothing wrong with it, but it wasn't me. And that's what had happened, is that the blocks were trying to tell me, this isn't it. No, this is not it. But I made the mistake of thinking that they were more emotional blocks as opposed to intuitive blocks, as opposed to like truth blocks. You could say that my truth was trying to tell me this isn't right. And it took this explosive reaction out of me of like upset and everything for me to finally listen to my truth, which was saying, no, that's perfectly nice, but that's not the way we're going. And that's not the best way to go for you. So that was one story. Another one is a smaller example, but I had the other gal that I said that I brought on, like, so she's amazing. I've worked with her before and she's just incredible. And so she had said, okay, well, I want to institute this program, or we agreed we're going to institute this program. She was great about getting my feedback. How did I want to approach it? Like everything. And then at one point she said, okay, well, I want to really be able to talk to people about this program that we're launching. And so I will need a one pager from you. So the one pager is just a PDF, and she sent me a few examples. So she set me up for success, right? She sent me some examples. She said, here's what I think it needs, but I'm going to need you to write it because you're the one who knows your work better, et cetera, et cetera. So everything was completely sound, nothing wrong with the approach. And so I had it on my list. Okay, I got to make this one pager. I got to create this PDF. And I have no problem, mind you, with graphic design. I have, things written places so I could easily pull writings. I had all the faculties to be able to pull this thing together. And yet I was blocked. And I was blocked and I was blocked. And what did I do? Again, I approached it from that perspective of, well, I just must be scared or nervous about something, or I must be, I just have this, I don't have confidence in myself about whatever. And I just automatically assumed, without really questioning it, that it was probably some emotional issue with me that I just need to process and remove and heal, and then everything would feel better. And I'd be able to create this one pager, which is not hard to do. I can do this. And it just didn't happen. And it just didn't happen. And it was like weeks and weeks and weeks. And she's waiting for this. And she was moving forward with her stuff, but she's like waiting for this, marketing material, if you will, not the classical sense, but, material to informational material to be able to share with people who would be interested in our project, our program. And it just didn't happen. And then finally one day, I don't even know what precipitated this, but she and I were on a Zoom call. And finally, we were talking about it again. And I said, I know, I'm really sorry I haven't put it together. I'm so sorry. I promise you, I'm trying. And then finally, I think I just sort of blurted out, well, can I make a web page instead? And she goes, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, great. And the thing is, so literally what had taken all those months of like feeling resistance and blocks and what in a web page, I literally made it in like a day and a half with video and everything. And what I realized from that experience is that it wasn't that I had fear about doing it. Although I would say that some of my resistance, I realized in hindsight, was I didn't like the sort of stiffness of a one pager where it's like, you have to craft it. And it's like this pressure of having to craft it perfectly. And then I wouldn't be able to change it. Whereas web page is easy for me. Now it might not be easy for you. It's easy for me. And that was easy to make. And so all I had to do was just kind of like, boop, 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 put it together, and then do the video and then done. And then if I saw at some point that I'd need to update it or add more information, I could easily do that. I go on the website, I change it. So for me, the web page was a better option because there's more flexibility. It's more dynamic. It's easier to then send a link for someone. And then there's a video of me. So it's more personal. There are just so many benefits to that. And so my point is, though, that I had this block yet again, that I assumed was something emotional. And it turns out something was trying to say that that's not really that's not really the way that's best for you, or that's not really the best way to do it. Like there's a better way to do it. And again, it was nothing wrong with what my gal had suggested. It's a perfectly sound suggestion. It had worked with her other projects that she'd done in other organizations. And yet it just wasn't the best for me, working with the way I think and the way I tend to like to approach things, or what and I look at it now and it's funny. Here's what happened. So I said, can I do a webpage? She said, yeah, sure. I put together the webpage in like a day and a half, because I had to video it. And I sent her the link and she said, oh my God, I love this. And she's like, and this is so much better than a one pager. So it was funny because even she agreed that this was a better approach. Okay. Third example, this one a little bit more complicated, but it's a similar situation where, again, this is the same gal, where she's like wanting me to create some stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'm working on it. But meanwhile, it was kind of funny because I was working on one program. It's actually a program for children. I'm working on this one program, but my brain kept kind of going all these other places with other programs I also wanted to create. So finally, after kind of trying to rein my brain in and sort of struggling, I finally was able to get there with creating this children's program. And, it's just this whole thing, but something didn't feel right. And I'd been blocked all the way. I mean, I finally put it together because it was like, she's been waiting to we've been wanting to share this. And so the point is, though, at one point, so I did the whole video and the whole course, and, finished it. And then I watched the video. It turns out there was some sound issues. And then not only after that, my computer died, like just kaput one day, just done, and had to take it to the Genius Bar and pay a lot of money to get it fixed. But the point is that gave me the opportunity to actually go, okay, let me back up. Since I don't have, the updated program, I don't have the computer, the computer had to go off. I didn't have it recently updated. So I had to just be like off the computer and just reflect. And I ended up basically laying out all these programs that I'm going to create. And it turned out, and then as soon as I did that, I felt so much better. I didn't feel blocked. I felt great. I felt excited. I was like, yes, my brain finally had its way of creating programs for our work, for Change Light. And so it's a long way of saying that in all of those stories, I had felt blocked. I'd felt this heaviness. I'd felt this, I don't know why I can't do this. And come on, it's so easy. So my left brain, my analytical conscious mind or whatever was like, you can do this, Emily. Come on, your work, how to make this, come on, what's wrong with you? Like, you can do this. But I kept feeling blocked. And so then I just assumed, well, it must be emotional, right? I made that mistake. I immediately assumed it was emotional. No, there were some emotional things under there, but that wasn't the main thing, because even after I cleared the emotion, the blocks were still there. And I was still feeling this resistance to doing whatever it is that this person had asked me to do, or I thought I should be doing. It's a long way of saying, I think you get the gist by now, that not all blocks are emotional. And just like not all blocks are intuitive, not all blocks are emotional. And so so part of my intention of doing this episode is to say, when we have a block, it's really important that we determine the nature of that block. Where is it coming from? Is it emotional, or is it intuitive? Is it some part of you with some wisdom that says, yeah, okay, you could do it that way, but actually there's a better way? And you may not be getting the answer about what the better way is yet, but the fact that you're feeling blocked may actually be trying to show you that no, this is a harder way to do it. There's a way that works better for you, or there was a way that's more effective that would also be easier for you. You see? So that was the lesson that I learned, is that don't automatically assume that just because you're feeling blocked, it's emotional. It could be, actually, there are actually other reasons, I would say, for being blocked. But being blocked, you could be emotional. It could be intuitive. It could be a timing issue that you don't know. Like it could be there are other things happening, you know, in the unseen, or that's not immediately, that you're not immediately aware of, that like maybe other things need to line up in order for you to therefore be able to move forward. And that when that block is removed, it could be that, okay, now it's ready. So it could be more on like an energetic, spiritual, whatever level. But my point is that we can be blocked for all kinds of reasons. And so when I thought to myself, okay, well, how can you determine what kind of block it is that you're dealing with, right? Is that your next question? Because it was my next question. Okay, so how do I figure this out? And I can't claim to have really sat and like really analyzed this really deeply and tested it out, but I know a few things now. Sorry, that's a song just came to mind from Into the Wood. I know things now. Da, 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 da. Okay, anyway, it was a Little Red Riding Hood song from Into the Woods. But anyway, I know things now. And so what I would say is when you're feeling blocked, here's what I would recommend. And this is what I'm going to do too. If I'm feeling blocked, I'm going to first ask myself, is it fear? Like, is it emotion based, right? Is there, even if the block, like, even if it feels at first like it's just kind of a block and heaviness, you still, I find, still got to go in there, because what can happen is there can actually be fear inside that block, even if it doesn't seem like it on the surface. It could be that, you know, you're not feeling an emotional connection with issue with the block, within the block, but you got to kind of go deeper, because sometimes it can be like that there's an underlying fear that's not, you're not immediately aware of, that is really fueling it. So it is important to go and ask, is this fear? Is fear underlying this block? Is fear trying to stop me? Okay, well, in that case, if it's fear, what am I scared about? What are the fears? And doing the processes to, like for me, I draw it out, I do the drawing out process, ask questions, feel, like let the body speak, let wisdom come through by really going into that block and seeing what's there, because there could be some really legitimate fears that you have, and that's okay. It's okay to be scared, but it's by way of saying that, okay, maybe it's fear. If you find though that you're going in and you're sort of noticing this block and tuning into it, and you're finding that it's not really that the fear or there's no like emotional thing that's immediately present, then you might be dealing with an intuitive block. You could be dealing with some part of your wisdom that's trying to say, no, like, don't waste your time, or, you know, this isn't right for you, or there's a better way to do this, or a better way to approach it. So that is not so much, I would say, like an emotionally charged block as it is an intuitive block, as it is some part of your wisdom that's trying to guide you away from doing something or doing it that way towards a better, more effortless way, that, or healthier way that will work for you. And I would actually say that those blocks, the examples I gave you, were those intuitive blocks that were basically saying, like, you know, it's not like the way I was going to go about it was unhealthy or bad for me, but it wasn't right for me. And it wasn't the best way for me. It wasn't the most effortless and easy and flowing and natural way. So it wouldn't have served me, even if I tried to push through those blocks, or I'd still gone forward. It would have meant more effort and more struggle and more pain. And I think that my wisdom was also trying to be like, no, that's, you need to kind of like look at other options here. So I also, so that's where I think you can sit with that and determine, like, okay, if there's no real intense fear here, or there's no real like emotional charge going on here from within the block, well, then maybe it is more intuitive, and I need to find a better way to do this, or I need to not do this thing. I mean, we can certainly be blocked when we are thinking of doing something that's really not healthy for us, and some part of us knows that, and it's trying to stop us, and yet we're, you know, still trying to push through it. I would also say too, by the way, sometimes those blocks, going back to the emotional blocks, sometimes those blocks can be, you know, from an inner critic who is telling you that you're not good enough, or etc. And in that case, that's what I would call like more of an emotionally charged one, you know, where you've actually got a part of you that's carrying some trigger, some, you know, wound or fear that you're going to get hurt. from the past. So that's, yes, that's where I would say, but again, going back to my stories and stories I shared here, I didn't have an inner critic telling me I couldn't do it. I didn't have a wall that was like trying to protect me. Like I didn't have any of that. It really was just kind of just there. And I was the one who kept thinking that it was emotional. And if I could just get through the emotion, and it was like, no, that's not really what this is about. So it took a few experiences like this for me to finally realize that. And then in terms of the timing block, so I would say it's, again, I haven't really done a whole like study of this, but let's just say for now, the three options would be, it could be an emotional block. Okay, so clear the emotion. It could be an intuitive block. Okay, well, then intuitively something's telling me this isn't right, and I need to figure out a better way for me to do it. Or it could be more like, I don't know, the term that comes to mind is like a spiritual block. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but the point being, it's like a timing thing where it's like, well, it's just not the right time. And that maybe it's not the right time, not because of anything you can control. Maybe there's other forces, other things going on that you can't control. And so it's a matter of just being patient and resting and relaxing, and then maybe doing other things in the meantime until it feels right, until that block kind of lifts for you to take those actions. Of course, let me just throw this in here, but this is not my expertise. We can also feel blocked because of chemical stuff, neurochemical stuff, or even because of what we're eating. There can be all kinds of things, as always, that impact our emotional well-being or our emotional sense of flow, or even mental flow. So just want to honor that always. That's always a consideration. I know that I've felt much less blocked and heavy and, and low energy, et cetera, since I eat healthier or eating at different times, or like I do intermittent fasting and I love it. And I have so much more energy now because I'm not constantly eating throughout the day. So anyway, that's just a long way of saying that there can be different kinds of blocks. And so it's good to, when you're feeling blocked, to be really just to sit with the block and tune into it to find out what it's really about. Don't just assume that it's there for this reason or that reason. And really see what wisdom it has to offer you, and go from there. So I hope this has been helpful. As always, I know blocks are a big deal, and I know that we get frustrated with them, and I know that they stop us from doing things, but it's always good to find out what that's really about so that we can move forward in whatever direction, or sit and be at peace with whatever is right now. All right. So I hope this is helpful. As always, I'm Emily at changelight.world, and my work is the Change Light system and changelight.world. And join our community. Like I said, I'm going to be creating, now that I'm not as blocked, we're going to be launching some new programs to serve a lot of different communities, actually, to serve children. We've already got one for change makers. We're doing one for inmates, and also for coaches and therapists. I'm developing that program, which is going to be a more in-depth training program. So if you're curious or interested, go to our website. And actually, there's a page. If you hit our programs, you can see there's a page to sign up to receive updates about our launch of those programs. So exciting stuff. All right. As always, mwah, big hugs. Love you. Take care. Have a great week. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye.